rectify some technical hitches right here. If you're just joining us, it is still AM Chat, and we're now through with the newspaper review segment. Before we went on the short break, Romelia was about to read from our papers.
Yes, I was, and it is the Nation newspaper, and it leads with its headline, 4.7 billion naira fire chase men hide. With 2 riders, EFCC in Ado-Ekiti, and governor threatens to name others in funds transfer. The story continues on pages 2, 3, 6, and 38. That's quite some story. I'm intrigued. I want to read. And another headline is AMCON lies. Who owes who? 65 billion naira with Union Bank without the 5% interest rate agreement. And then we have a letter from the Formation Bank. And about the rider there is PDP senators drop support for Buhari. It's sheer blackmail, says the APC. Our story is on page 6. And finally, from the Nation newspaper, on page 6 still, EFCC 1.310 billion naira paid to Omishore firms. And cash, part of Obanikoro's haul. That story is on page 6. That's the final headline from the Nation newspaper.
Okay, Mr. Udo, so much stories, like, before we came back, we're talking about this huge sum of money is reeling out. We talk about billions of naira. From naira
4.7 billion
into
1.31 billion.
And the figures just kept increasing. Yes. Now, talking about all the wahala in the National Assembly, Sarakia said, I know nothing about the alleged forgery. And now the PDP senators have withdrawn support for the APC government. This was actually on Wednesday yesterday. And they came out and they said, you know what? We found out now that the cry and the fight for corruption is lopsided. And until the Buhari-led administration seem to be fighting on both sides and talking from both sides of its mouth, they are really stepping down. And the APC government is saying it is pure, what did they say?
Blackmail.
Blackmail. I really want you to, because there's so much confusion right now. The Nigerian man has become squinted because we really do not know what's going on. I want you to react to all this going on right now.
Well, we're in a democracy. We have to understand that. The first priority for PDP legislators, whether in the Senate or the National Assembly, or even the state houses of assembly, is to defend their party. That of the APC is to defend the ruling party in the federal level. So it's expected that any time a PDP governor is under pressure, the PDP legislators and other governors will seek to defend their own. That is expected. It happens anyway. But in all of this, we have to ask the question, where is Nigeria in all of this? Because the reason why we sent them to the National Assembly was to present our interest, not their party's interest. Of course, they have a party platform. Of course, they need to work as a party in order to further their own party manifesto, if they have any. But we always, as citizens, have to look clearly and think, all this noise, where is Nigeria? So in the legislature, in the National Assembly, where are the bills that would help move us forward? Okay, you have issues about the executive prosecuting the legislature. What are you doing to separate the powers of the Attorney General from that of the Solicitor General? What are the specific action the legislature is taking for our progress as a people? For the executive, what are we doing about the budget? What are we doing about Lagos-Ibadan Expressway with all the accidents that are going on? Yes, you're constructing the road. What is FRSC doing to minimize the crisis or respond quickly to incidents that happen there? That's the question we should be asking. What are we doing about the various projects that should be moving us forward? Because if Nigeria is moving forward in terms of economy, in terms of infrastructure development, you keep making your noise.
Now, I was talking with someone yesterday, and he said Nigeria is going through a political holocaust. And I was like, a lot of lights went off in my head, And now, with all this happening, you did mention that in 3 years' time we'll be bringing in new people or probably retaining the old ones that we have. With all this that is going on, there are people watching. What do you think the typical Nigerian should be thinking about now when you think about the next crop of people to lead us.
All right. Just an offshoot from when you said, when you were talking, you talked about the manifesto, if they have any. Now, like a question now is, what should Nigerians be looking out for? When we're asking for manifestos, what are those things we should be demanding? What are the things you want to do? What should we be looking out for?
Because let's put it this way. I get up in the morning, I'm going to Ibadan. I've read the papers, I've watched AM chat and all the dispute, all the political logjam and all that's going on. If I face a traffic in Ibadan, Lagos Ibadan, I ignore all that you're talking about and what is before me is the reality. If I get back home after going through all that issue on the road and I have issues with my light, I ignore all that you're talking about.
The light becomes
so the executive do have to focus on what they said they were going to do. Citizens need to, I think, let me turn this around. If we begin to have just a 1% increase in citizens engaging their representative in the National Assembly, the senators will not be spending most of their time talking about party politics. They'll be spending their time responding to the demands of their constituents. So if we begin to ask people, once you're there, those of you who are in the lands of commission, whichever committee is in charge of roads, what are you doing as part of your oversight function as regards to Lagos Ibadan Express is being constructed? Yes, the Minister of Works, Fashola, has said contractors are back inside. We've seen them there. But lives are being lost. What are we doing to respond to the incidents that occur there? It's a given. So when citizens begin to demand more of their representatives, we shift focus from
let me say this. They are preparing for 2019. Let's turn it around now. How should we, the citizens, the populace, be preparing for 2019?
It's simple. If we do not get involved in bridging the gap between us, the owners of the democracy, the power, and those who represent us, 2019 will be in the same situation where they come back and tell us whatever they want to tell us, dip a few gifts in our hands, and off they go.
So what
we need to do now is to engage. We need to engage our representatives. We need to bridge that. Then we need to make them understand that what you said you were going to do just last year, we're demanding report. We need to begin to write to them. We need to begin to visit them when they come around to host meetings for their constituents. We need to also look at the budget, download the budget. Budge IT is an organization out there that breaks down the budget. We need to understand what the budget says, what has been allocated, and seek to follow up on this so that the developments that we're looking for don't just happen, that we can see that whatever is allocated is followed to the letter. We need to hold government
to account. There needs to be an awakening in the consciousness of Nigerians. We need to wake up to our reality, because it's our lives here.
We also have to add that many of us need to start looking at the political parties. Not just sitting as, which one am I voting for? We need to look and think, if I don't like PDP, I don't like APC,
do you have an alternative?
There's MPC, a few other parties have registered. We need to become members, not necessarily candidates, but we need to become members of political parties. Look at any country that is developed. There was a time when most citizens were involved in the political parties. The parties decide who goes to the legislature. The parties decide who goes into the executive. The party decides who become ministers, ambassadors, heads of MDAs. So all the political actors that you're unhappy with right now, we have the opportunity when we get involved in political parties to determine who will be the actors come 2019.
Okay, so get your paper and your pen and begin to tick off, because it is important that we start now. Mama, final bit is the Daily Trust newspaper, and it says Buhari anti-graft war must continue. President's dinner with National Assembly leaders postponed. We have more of that story on page 3. DSS arrest former Army Chief A. Jerika. We have more of that story on page 7. And just below, Obasanjo, local government need help against states. That story continues on page 7. And on page 4, Zenith Bank funded my election, says Fayose on the Daily Trust newspaper. And Lagos, Abuja, among world's most expensive cities. We have more of that story on page 13. But I wouldn't leave without telling you that there's a pictorial on the Daily Trust, the front page of the mayhem that happened on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Too much too often.
much.
I tell you. That's the last paper on my page.
Too much. And I have my final paper, and it is the New Telegraph, and the leading headline is Buhari cancels dinner with senators and reps. Says, I won't stop fighting graft. And Senate suspends ambassadorial screening, and lawmakers to president probe APC campaign funds. That story continues on page 2. On page 41, Abia North, I won in 5 councils, Kalu tells tribunal. And on page 41 still, Masol petitions NJC over detention of members for 9 years. Masol petitions NJC over detention of members for 9 years. And the U.S. deports 41 Nigerians. The U.S. deports 41 Nigerians. That story is on page 10. An abducted Catholic priest's decomposing body found.
Wow.
That is a sad one. I think I read about when he was abducted. Oh no. Abducted Catholic priest decomposing body found. That story is on page 9. So sad. May his soul rest in peace. And about the mass there, Nigeria's first quarter oil earnings down 34.1% to 396.47 billion naira. And finally, 3 die, scores injured, 5 vehicles burnt as accident locks down Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. That's on page 8 with the pictorial there. And coffee protects liver against diseases. Anyway, coffee.
So that is the last paper.
Final paper.
The final
Yes.
paper.
Mr. Udo, how do we
final
round off? President cancels dinner with reps and senators. Was that a good move? What would have
Prompted
precipitated that?
Yes.
Well, there's a lot happening between both camps, and I think they'll resolve it. I
But
think
when 2 elephants
fight
go in a
grass
tussle.
suffers. I think we have to keep saying it. The fundamentals of democracy is a government by the people, for the people, of the people. So our biggest challenge in this democracy is that in the 17 years we've had it, we haven't, on our side, seem to have made progress. By our side, that means the citizens. There's a lot that happens there that we don't dictate or control the discussions. We're not dictating what they're talking about. So they talk whatever they want to talk about, and we side on the side, clap or boo. And we should go beyond being the spectators to becoming actors. I think fundamentally, what our biggest need right now is for citizens to participate in governance. That is a fundamental. And listen, most of us who are in our late 30s, 40s, and 50s, we can't sleep well at night. Not because of heat, not because of lack of light. We have suffered enough. We have suffered injustice. We've lost loved ones to road accidents, to health, and so many issues. But during the 20, 30 years of complaining, has anything changed? Nothing. There has to be a tipping point where we say we can't do what we do anymore. We've got to change. If I have suffered this much, then get involved in dirty game politics. Yeah, if I'm going to suffer, then let me go suffer. Let's get involved and let's start demanding true change and true governance. And hopefully in doing, not hopefully, certainly in doing so, we improve our democracy, the quality of candidates, the quality of governance, and the outcome will be the Nigeria we've all desired.
The Nigeria we've all desired
Yes.
can only come to us if there is citizen participation. We have to get involved.
We have to.
We need to know what we want. We all know what we want. We want healthcare. We want education. I want fuel. I want to be able to buy fuel